Hello and welcome to me overanalyzing every single chapter in Houseki no Kuni, uh, because I just want to see Foss suffer again. That's completely why. Anyway, uh, spoilers for up to 105. What was the other thing? Oh, please let me know any additional analysis that you have, or if you disagree with me, or uh, have different observations than I do. Anyway, I want to start off with a little bit of depression. So here is Foss, and here's Foss, and I just remember seeing a edit where someone juxtaposed these two images, and it's very sad and interesting. Um, but they're kind of like standing in the same place here. Of course, there are differences, but it's interesting. Another thing is like we'll get to it, but like Foss cutting their hair in like this chapter, and I remember as one of my friends was reading through the series, they were like, if Foss keeps losing more pieces, they're going to go bald. So I'll let you be the judge of that. But anyway, I just found that funny. Technically, yeah, considering that there's like a tiny teensy bit of Foss left in that. But anyway, we're with this Foss for now. Um, like I said, spoilers for 105 if you're still here. Um, so here we have Foss and Lunarian of hacking, and Foss looks very like they're just so different from before. Like people were saying like the gold ally really changed them. Like after that chapter, like they're just so like it's almost like the death of a new character every time that Foss changes so drastically, or death of a character. But it's still the same character. They're just changing, but it like illustrates it so perfectly. But like with their hair like flowing and then them like looking like, and they're not afraid anymore. They finally have courage to face the Lunarians, but that came with such strife. Um, they kind of turn into Alex a bit, like with that, like losing their partner and having such a like hatred and then interest with the Lunarians. Like if all the characters are somewhat similar to Foss and like Solia, that's like an Alex moment. But I'm here to report too, and like throughout the winter too, it seems that like Foss has become like better at their job. They're better at the fighting role now, and they kind of act as like a one-person team now rather than needing other people. But that kind of makes them more lonely because that's kind of what the series is about. Um, but you see that Foss is finally like capable to do so much. They're finally capable to do what they need to do. Um, and then the arrows come in, and this is also like a really cool shot of Foss. Um, and then Sensei, the Lunarians are here. Like said so casually. Um, Foss, what kind does it look like? And it sees this kind of tells us that throughout this time, like Congo was teaching Foss about the Lunarians. Do I have anything to say about that? Like, it's also like interesting that like Foss didn't develop like the same like care for Sensei as like Antark did, and that like is interesting to me because I feel like it's because of Foss's like trauma with Antark that Foss just put it on Antark instead. And like it's just kind of crazy to me like how like Foss losing memories, forgetting why they're doing what they're doing, and forgetting like how much like Congo cares for them, like in all the gems. It's it's just like sad to see. Um it looks like an old type, but I will confirm. But another thing too is like with like the duo of Congo and Foss is that like their dynamic is so different from Congo and any other gem because Foss does really treat Congo as like just another person who has a little bit more authority over them. And Foss is rebellious, but you see that their rebelliousness goes down now after like their like the things that they want to do have like caused so much problems. And we see that Foss takes a lot more care. Like before, they're like, "Oh, I want you to do the cool thing where you unsheath your swords and like just throw it wherever." Here we see Foss like gently lay it on the ground. It just is like Foss is so different now, like oozing different personality just because of the drama they experienced and what has happened. And you can just see that in their actions with how it's a lot more delicate now. And then, you know, they're like, yes, Sensei, it was and the old type, just like saying it. And another thing is it just shows that like Foss's growth from this winter, because now they just walk up to a Lunarian and slap it, and then they're like, it's good. When the other two times Foss is seen in a Lunarian, they freeze and weren't able to do anything, and it just shows how much they've grown and how much they've changed, and that's a huge thing in this series is they've grown, but it's also changed. Like without a good or a bad, it's they've just changed, and that's where they are now. Um, oh, and then they're losing their balance, and Congo saves them and is like, happy. And another thing is like they Foss is now framed as a more equal field. It's more zoomed out and showing Foss's full body too. That's probably to emphasize their new arms and their new legs. But before like Foss, when Faber Foss was in frame, if it wasn't emphasizing a part of their body, it was mainly just their head. It was just their looking at their facial expressions and stuff like that. But now that Foss is like, now that Foss has become less emotive, it's now changed to their entire body, or looking more at their entire body, and that's probably like a change with the framing of the panels. Is probably because Foss is becoming less Foss, and it's emphasizing that. Because before we focused on Foss's head, and what's on their head, it's their hair that really emphasizes the gem that makes them up. But as the series goes on, it zooms more out on Foss. It zooms more out on Foss. Because now Foss isn't just the gem makeup that they are an amalgamation of things. They're a mixed bag, if you will. They are much more complex being than just their physical makeup, and that's why it becomes more zoomed out later, because the focus is not only just on like who they are, but also on stuff, and it also like Foss carries so much more weight as the series goes on, because Foss is important, like in the story, like of course they're the main character, but they're important in the history of this world, like really important. And at the beginning they're less important, but as the series goes on, they become more and more important, and the zoom out is to show that like the world is starting to become more of a character to Foss than just Foss prancing around in a field, because that's all they can do. Now they actually have impacted every single character in the entire world that we get to see in Houseki no Kuni, and that's why the zoom out is like so interesting. Like Ichikawa's art, like the way she conveys meaning through every single panel and conveys location through like the art style and everything like that. It's so good, and it's just so impressive. And these videos are me taking notes because it's such good storytelling, and especially like you could like I can't imagine Houseki no Kuni being a novel, because there's so much information that you get from just the drawings and the facial expressions and the paneling that Ichikawa does, and it's just beautiful to see. Um, so then Foss like falls and all that. You've gotten better at moving your ally membrane. Catch theorize. Now you only need to work on maintaining your balance. So this is another thing, is like Foss seems like very dazed and like very distracted, and like Foss is now able to control their arms, but he's talking about how like Foss can't maintain balance. I wonder if that, like, again, Foss's mental state is reflected in them physically. Like they like they probably physically and mentally feel unbalanced with like the amount of trauma that they've been through, and like the varying emotions that they're going through because of that. This is also them going through grief for the first time when they had no idea what death or grief was beforehand. And they've lost all their memories of talking to Ventricosis about it. Yes, Sensei, I'm sorry, I'll make sure to improve my control. Another thing is, like, Foss is so much more respectful to Congo now, and like, that change is probably because they have more respect for Antarg, and Antarg, like, had respect for Congo. Like, I feel like, because they're just so much respectful now than before. And of course, they go back to old, like, non-respectful Foss later, but it's, like, interesting to see. I'll go dispose of the remaining ice flows. Get some rest. And, like, this shows that Congo really cares for Foss. And, like, that's all he cares about is the well-being of the gems and the society. And you can tell that Foss has been through a lot. The weight of the gold platinum keeps me from moving like I used to. I need to hurry. And again, this is Foss's, like, like anxiety for like needing to get things done fast and the rush of like needing to do it extremely, like to go to the extreme to do it. Sorry, cough. Um, the ally has spread in a mesh pattern throughout your body to support your heavy arms. It's sure to create fine cracks all over you every time you send it out. Yes, but if this is all I do today, I won't be able to report to Antark. This is such a sad line. Because like Foss has done a lot today. Like we've seen them defeat a Lunarian, which was like which was impossible for them. Like the last chapter or the last couple of chapters, and it's so sad to see Foss's change like this because there are days when Lunarians don't even attack. Like Foss says this later. Foss doesn't even see defeating a Lunarian as anything worth able to report. Like it just shows how Foss has become more capable, but they're not satisfied with themselves. Like that's another thing is like Foss accomplished all their goals in the end. They helped every single character they wanted to help. Like like they made peace with everyone. They made peace between the Lunarians and the Gems. They were able to bring all the characters they wanted to into a community. And yet they're not satisfied. They never, at least in volume 12, past that like Foss grows a bit more, but like they aren't satisfied with themselves. Like they've accomplished everything they needed to and they aren't satisfied with how what's been happening, what's become. And this you see that here. They accomplished their goal of wanting to be able to fight. That was one of their goals. That's one of the goals that they've accomplished here. They can now fight. They can now stand up to the Gems and be a more useful member of society, but they're not satisfied. They're not happy. And of course, if here, that's because of Antark's death. Death, in quotes. But, like, it's just a constant problem with Foss, is that no matter how much they improved, they don't see their improvements as worthwhile. And that could also be because of their memory loss. Because they don't remember how different they were at the beginning. They can't remember their growth. That's probably another thing that the memory loss does is like maybe because of their memory loss they think they've always been this way. Like they've always been able to do this, but maybe they lost all those memories of feeling useless or not being able to do things, but now they feel useless and not being able to do things in a different way because now their aspirations are so more astronomically big. Like before it was just helping Cinnabar find a job. Now it's I need to get Antark away from the moon. Now their aspiration is so high, like that they need to be able to reach that goal. That even though they can now fight a Lunarian, which they weren't able to do, they can't accept it. They can't accept that they've done good. They can't give themselves a pat on the back. They can't feel good about themselves yet. Because there's always something that they haven't done. I wish I hadn't thrown the sword, and they have regrets. Like this, there could be meaning for like why, but this just shows their regret. Like, okay, yeah, maybe I should have done something else. Like it's just very subtly says that they regret like everything that happened, and have guilt about that stuff and stuff. I wish I'd reached out my hand, you know. And this is kind of like showing them like crushing me. Yeah, next time it will go better. And it seems like Foss says next time. It's like Foss wanting to always improve and get better and to always fight Lunarians because of that. Antark, I'm home. Sad. Um, it was sunny today. The Lunarians came for the first time in 13 days. It was another old type, unfortunately. Like, again, like, Foss is like, it's nothing to report about. Like, you haven't had anything to report about for 13 days. It's another old type. Like, you've defeated a Lunarian boss. Okay. But they can't be satisfied with their accomplishments. I hope the next one brings you with it. See how short it is? I wanted to be more like you. And since I cut it, and anyway, I thought I'd use my hair to fill in the gaps where I couldn't use my pieces. Of course, the ally always pushes it out. Anyway, through the cracks. I'm spending all my time awake lately. So, like, it shows that Foss really wants to be like Antark, Like, Antark is probably Foss's role model, because, like, Foss doesn't really look up to Cinnabar in, like, the same way. Like, they do find Cinnabar, like, intelligent and stuff like that, but, like, Foss looks up to Antark, because Antark was able to actually give them a role and invest time into Foss to make them better in who they are today, and being able to take over winter duty was because of Antark, and to give Foss a more purpose. And so that's why Foss like looks up to Antark more in that way. And the part about the pieces, like Rutile explained about this. I forgot where Rutile explained this. I think Rutile explains this around like um it's before Lapis's head, I think. I don't But like Rutile says that because Foss is so low on the hardness scale that every time Foss even just gets shattered, there's always missing pieces. And so like Foss is just constantly losing parts of themselves, even when they just break down. Like it's happened from the first chapter of the series when Foss broke, when Congo like did that. Like Foss has been slowly losing pieces ever since then. Um, and it's just really sad to see. But like you see like the pieces that they're doing, and then the gold also makes it worse, as they said, with the gold pushing like tiny bits of dust of Foss just out. And it shows that Foss has chosen the gold over themselves in this thing, because they're like, it's fine for the gold to do that, basically. To the gold to slowly rip apart some of my original self, and replace it with something else. And it's sad to see. And of course, like again, the bald thing. Like if Foss continues this, they're gonna be bald. Well, or just get a new head and keep losing hair that way, and then eventually go get mercury on your face, and that might help. But I want to be ready whenever the Lunarians show up. Besides, I don't want to close my eyes. I keep seeing this is such a good page turn as well. Lovely page as it is. Um, Foss's lovely trauma. Another thing to note is that like again like even though Antark is looking up at sorry, not Antark. Foss is looking up at Antark again, like showing like that they admire them and stuff like that. And then Antark breaks, and then there's this beautiful drama, and then Foss is like trying to catch them. Foss has actually been shown to try and catch, like when the whole Lapis head situation, like Foss. I remember Foss like tried to catch it or something, like just like trying to like hold the people they care about. Like they didn't care about Lapis in that way, but I'm saying like Foss reaching out to like grab stuff is such a like visual image in like whenever it happens in the series, just because it's like them desperately wanting something and it being bad for them or something like that. Um, it's also interesting that like the Lunarians are actually like holding the pieces here. So not only is Foss like seeing Antark like disappear, but you see these hands, which I assume are Lunarian hands, like grabbing the pieces. And then of course, like this is explaining why Foss doesn't want to sleep, because this is probably what they see when they sleep, like in terms of like nightmares and stuff. Foss, go sleep in your room. I don't really want to sleep. I'd rather keep busy. I know it's um. I'll fix your kimono if you leave. This also shows like Foss is so capable now too, like with the fixing the kimono thing, because like at the beginning of volume 1, like we see that Foss has tried a bunch of jobs, and one of those was sewing with like Red Barrel, and it shows that Foss is just so much like Foss has changed so much. Foss is so much more capable. Foss can finally do things like basic tasks and basic roles, and they've gotten the confidence now to do that stuff, to even suggest doing stuff that's another role. But they're not satisfied. They It's so sad. They can't see anything that they do as good, and they see themselves as a problem. Uh, but it's kind of glad that they have a little bit more confidence to do things that they used to not be able to do or have confidence in, and they're finally accepting like some responsibilities that might be more minor, because they see it as just mundane things that they can do. Whereas before, if a gem suggested them to do something minor, they wouldn't accept it. But now they're the ones actually suggesting work for themselves. I guess it shows their change again. Like this is a different Foss. Like the Foss that we met at the beginning of this volume is completely different than this Foss. Because as I said before, like with the legs and stuff, like Foss was really lazy before, didn't want to put effort into things, would avoid mundane work that they didn't think was worth it. And now that they're capable, now that they don't want to lounge around and just think and like just sit in the grass for a bit, they don't want to do that because they don't want their mind to wander and think of Antark. So instead, they're keeping busy. They're finding jobs to do. They want to be useful, and they're actually able to do it now because they do it out of a sense of guilt. Um, and again, the like series doesn't frame it in any way, but it's why like we see this as a good thing going forward, but when you read it back, you see it as more of a bad thing because of the mental anguish, the fact that Foss now is able to do stuff, but they sacrificed who they were before, and the old self of them kind of died there because now they're what they want to be, but what they want to be is miserable. Um, I've never seen the change. This scene is so sad. It, there's so many scenes like this that are just so good, but I've never seen the change from winter to spring before. I didn't realize how quickly living things change. It scares me. You're changing too. Like it's also interesting, like this framing of looking in on Foss. That's true. I am, aren't I? And they start. This is the first time we ever see Foss cry. Um, this is such a powerful scene. Like I think it's such a powerful scene. Um, but we can also see like the sun rising slowly in this scene, and we just see Foss's expression as like Foss is finally viewing like how much things have changed. And I think it's also like them crying because winter is what connected them to Antark, and now winter is gone. And it's interesting how it says how quickly living things have changed. This has all happened in like a year for Foss. Like, and considering how old the life from Foss is changing so rapidly, and it's interesting that Congo says this because Congo recognized it, and I don't. I bet Congo's worried about it, but again, it's like something that's like kind of encouraged for Foss. I love the like diamond patterns of the windows. Like, it just makes for a bunch of interesting shots. Another thing to note here is that Foss's this eye, you're changing too. That's this eye that Foss has right there. The other one's covered in this, but the eye that's actually revealed is the one that Congo gives to Foss later, um, which is kind of interesting. Just an interesting note with the paneling and stuff like that. I'm scared, and then they just start crying. It's so sad, but like, so before they were scared to not do anything, but now that they're scared that they're changing so rapidly, and I bet that they're scared that they're gonna forget about themselves, and they do, and it's very sad. And it's yeah. And I like how I'm scared, like the reason they're scared can be interpreted in so many ways. I just love the interpretation of it. Um but you know, they yeah, sad. And another thing too is that this gets Foss closer to Cinnabar in this way. Because Foss and Cinnabar are the only characters in this series who cry. They're the only characters in this series who cry, and it just like gives like a more connection to Cinnabar in that way. And I believe that Cinnabar and Foss have like a reverse character like arc thing. Like Foss gets more lonelier as the series. Well, Foss is lonely the whole series, but Foss gets further away from the community, and Cinnabar gets closer to the community throughout the thing. And Foss is. This is the first time we see Foss cry. It's very sad, and it makes me think of Cinnabar because Cinnabar is also the only other character who can cry. For some reason, when it leaks, the ally leaks out here. That's the only time I can control it. I'm sorry. And this is also like a very human, vulnerable moment for Foss, and that's the whole thing of the story: is Foss becoming more human and Foss being different from the other gems because Foss is more human. And we just see that here. This was a defect of the ancient life forms. It isn't your fault. This was your like a human Foss, is what Congo was saying. Now get some rest. And Foss is like, no. But so this we still see Foss's defiant self to Congo, but this time Congo isn't giving Foss an order to do a job or something like that. Congo is saying, "Take care of your well-being," and Foss says no. And it just shows that Congo has more care for Foss than Foss themselves. It won't be much longer. And so now Foss is greeting the gems. And then the gems wake up. It's a little water, Antark, and then then Foss says like, Antark is on the moon. We just see all their shocked expressions, and this is the first time the gems see Foss with their new arms and everything like that. And like again, like how we saw the legs with Antark at the beginning, like the distance is so much. Like even now, like this is still volume 3, but even now we see the distance growing between Foss and the gems. When Foss is changing, thinking that they're going to get closer to the gems, when in fact they're getting further and further away. And this is just seen here. Foss, is that you? Like, Rutile's having trouble identifying Foss, and Rutile's have put Foss together. Like, and knows it like many times, you know. And Foss says yes. Like it just shows that Foss is just getting further and further from that, especially the fact that Rutile can't recognize Foss, you know. Is it true what you said about Antark? And your arms? Yes. I'll tell you everything later since I should have something to say to too. Um, is everybody here? All right. Anyway, would you go check on Cinnabar for me, and mention that we want everybody who can make it to come to the morning meeting. Cinnabar? Oh right, it was too heavy, awkward. My apologies. I'll go myself. No, I'll go, but first it was Cinnabar. It's such a and at the end of volume 3, like it's such a good way to end it. And so sad. But of course Foss like doubles back on that in the next one, but like the fact that they originally like don't remember, and we see that they have to like really think about it. It might be a thing where they have bits and pieces but not like the full thing, you know. And it's sad. And again with like the framing, this is the first time Foss has ever been elevated in the frame. Like I said, like we're zooming more out because Foss used to be so much below the frame. Do I have a name for? I have 3 over there, but we'll do it. Not 3. This is 3. I have 2 over there, but like as I pointed out in the previous videos, like Fosses usually just their head in the lower like part of the frame, like very lower part. And this is as the series goes on, we get zoomed out more and more Foss in the paneling. Like I still like always like, you know, when Foss gets like very mentally distressed, like when there's that full shot of like gold like bursting out of Foss's head, or in the shot where there's, and like further from that we see the shot where Foss is just crouched down like cry when it's like Moon Foss, like whenever they are sitting down. Like as the series goes on, we get more zoomed out of Foss and more focused on like the world and how Foss is affecting it rather than just Foss, and it's very good. But yeah, see, like this is the first time like Foss has ever been elevated in the gems in the frame. Of course, because now all the gems are lying down and Foss isn't. But it shows, but it's not equal ground. Like Foss now is like a little bit more above in the gems with like capabilities and stuff because of that, but they're not equal. They're not on the same eye line length still. Like now it's just reversed it, but you know. Anyway, Mr. Noir. This is funny. It's very funny. I wish Antark wasn't gone. But you know, just with Foss helping clean up and like Antark repairing Foss. Like again, this also shows that all the other gems know how to repair each other too. It's not just Rutile. Um, but yeah. Since we're in medical office, make sure you know where everything is kept. And it really shows. This also just shows how much Antark kind of babied Foss, or you know, really Antark like became like a parent to Foss in the way of like teaching Foss all these things that Foss probably didn't know beforehand. Um, I don't recommend reading Rutile's diary. This could just be anything, but or it could just be a bunch of slash marks for marking like Pod Paraja, like how many days it's been since Pod Paraja has been awake. That's what I'd assume it is. If it's not just something else, you know. But yeah. We're patrolling the school, which dangerously, you know, the sleepwalker with the cloth. It's a funny little gag. Um, yeah, it's just this is like very nice moments. I'm glad that it's in here, but this also just shows like how much care Antark gave to Foss in teaching them everything that like Antark knew. And I think that Antark did like having another person around, even though they, you know, pretended like they didn't, which is a common theme with all of Foss's friends. Anyway, that's the end of this volume, and we're off to volume 4 next. Thank you so much for watching. Please give any of your thoughts in the comments below and anything about that. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to get notifications for like the next videos. Anyway, see ya. Bye.